you encounter technical issues during the broadcast, please call the Oregon Studio Hotline at 336-831-0864. Stations, your final time cue will be with 15 seconds until airtime. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
The following is a presentation of Learfield IMG College.
This is Duck Insider.
Give it to Verdell. He's got the first down and go. Duck fans start celebrating. Oregon is the 2019 Pac-12 champion. The 2020 Rose Bowl champion.
Richardson, another open three. Good. Duarte dribbles and slams with the right hand. For the third time in the last 5 years, the Ducks are Pac-12 champions. Outright champ.
Holy three. Good. Holy ball. Out Shelley. Three ball. Good. Regular season champions and now Pac-12 tournament champions.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
We're just getting started.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, here's Joey Mack.
Thank you, and we got a busy show today. We're going to jump right in. Andy Avalos, Oregon defensive coordinator, met with the media. Also, Joe Moorhead, Oregon offensive coordinator, talked to the media today. It is an off day for Oregon football because the Ducks, along with the rest of the college sports landscape, have today off because it is Election Day. If you haven't voted yet, get out and vote. So the Ducks with a little bit of a modified week as they prepare for their opener now against Stanford. 4:30 on ABC. We'll have the broadcast on the radio side on the Oregon Sports Network with a 2:30 pregame show. You can join Terry Johns for some interviews, including one with offensive coordinator Joe Moorhead. Went in depth on that RV trip that he took across the country when he got the job at Oregon. I'm dead serious. Terry talked to him about that. That coming up on the pregame show at 2:30 on Saturday. We also are going to hear from the voice of the Stanford Cardinal, Scott Reiss, about the challenges that they have faced in getting ready for this season. We're going to talk about that. Also, our continued chat with Holly Anderson from Oregon Sports Nutrition. A lot to get to. First of all is Andy Avalos. Brought to you by the way of Cancer Institute Research Center. Fight like a duck with cancer care you can count on. The Oregon defensive coordinator talked to the media just a little while ago.
Andy, first time in 4 years his defense is not going to have Troy Dye on the field. Your thoughts on Isaac and the opportunity he has and filling in for him, and what can you say about the battle between Sewell and Drew Mathis as well? What's making that tough to decide?
Isaac, starting off with Isaac, Isaac's done a tremendous job. Number one, in understanding that position, every single day being effective, helping run the defense from that position on the field, making his plays in the run game, in the pass game. We're really excited about, his opportunity to play that position. And then obviously, yes, to the field side with Drew and Noah battling out. They'll both play. They both do a good job. Obviously, they have their strengths, and we'll make sure we'll play to those. And as we continue to build, keep building on the weaknesses. But we're really excited about that core and the depth we have there.
Andy, we talked about the flexibility in the secondary that could allow you to do some rather exotic things, but in the front seven, it might be more important this week just by the way Stanford plays. I think at times last year you employed a 4-4 or 5-2 against these guys and caused a lot of disruption. What does some of the flexibility of a Dorless or a KT or a Ajax on the edge allow you to do? And how were you so effective in creating disruption last year against Stanford?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to play a lot of different personnels, and being able to match those personnels, whether it be speed on the field or they put their bigger bodies on the field. And, we've got to be able to match our personnel to theirs. And when they put their bigs on the field, we got to put our bigs on the field. When they put their speed on, we got to put our speed on. And ultimately it comes down to handling our process and the operation and the pre-snap to handle all those different looks and be able to execute our responsibilities.
And it probably wasn't the only one surprised to see KT atop the I guess the Sam depth chart. How long has that been in play? And what kind of gives you the confidence he can do that? And how has that impacted his practice habits?
He played that position at the end of last year as well. He got some snaps at that in the Rose Bowl. So he's been doing it since last year. Obviously, we feel good about the depth there with him and Ajax at that position there, and being able to again match the personnel that we're getting, from the offense. And he's done a really good job with it.
What's your scouting report based on fall camp of your own quarterbacks, Tyler and Anthony? What do each of them bring to the table, since it's still unclear exactly who we're going to see at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, and it'd be undue fair to our program if I gave a scouting report on our quarterbacks, brother. You know what I'm saying? So they've done a tremendous job. I mean, Tyler's done an awesome job, and AB's done a great job. Coach Morehead's done an unbelievable job getting the offense rolling and, given all the situations we've had this year. And we're excited. We're excited about those guys and the offense, and, can't wait to see them.
Coach, was just curious. Yesterday, Mario said that Stanford's wide receivers could be some of the best you face this year. What have you seen from scouting them?
Well, the size-speed combination, they got a lot of length at that position. Traditionally, they have, and the speed that goes with it now, it's going to be a huge challenge. They got guys that obviously run the deep routes really well, from inside positions, outside positions, and also the intermediate routes. And so we're going to have our hands full. It is going to be one of the best wide receiver groups that we've seen in a long while.
For your guys, the secondary just throughout camp and now here going into week one, just how much did it mean to have Diamador and having like a leader, like just a veteran presence like that back, and just what are his goals for this year?
Diamador's done an unbelievable job. And Diamador, number one, is a leader in his mentality and his positive impact every single day. And the way his game has already developed, you can see a difference in Diamador and Demo's play on the field right now. He looks different, even his improvements from last year. And ultimately, that's what you would want to see, is continued growth. And so we're really excited about, what he's done at his position and how he's growing. And then obviously how he's helping, build our culture.
Andy, I want to step away from football just for a moment. Election day, how important is it to you as mentors and coaches to talk to your young men about today's importance, voting, and how engaged have they been over these last few days about that process?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, I think with the way the process works, currently a lot of the guys have already taken care of that prior to today in terms of the voting and stuff. And the registration to get signed up to vote, we were way out in front of that with 100% of our team registering to vote, and each of the position coaches, jumping out in front of that way back in the beginning of September, and checking with all our position groups and making sure guys were going through the necessary steps and understanding the steps and providing them. Our operations program here's provided our football team, student athletes, with all the information they've needed, from registering to information on who they're voting for, whether it be, and we've even tried to, as the local levels, from where they're voting. Not everybody votes for the local level here. These young men come from all over the country. And so there's a lot of information that from the end of August to now that I believe our program's done a tremendous job putting together to help educate, the young men in this program to have an impact.
Coach, against Stanford, the middle of that defensive line could be just playing a crucial role. Talk about the nose tackle position with Jordan and Popo and the depth there and what you're seeing out of them in practice.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, those guys have played a ton of football for us. They understand what it takes. Number one, how to prepare and how to get yourself ready. Obviously, the game experience on the field. And another guy to add to that mix, too, is Christian. Christian Williams has had a really, really good camp. We're very excited about what he brings to the table as well. So, Jordan and Popo and Austin and those guys, they've done a tremendous job in this camp. They know what it needs to look like. They know what it needs to be like to prepare and what it's going to be like on game day.
I wanted to go back to that nickel position. Everyone's been raving about Jamal Hill, but Bennett Williams was the name that came up early in camp, and you've obviously coached Happel. Wanted to hear about the competition between Happel and Bennett, because we see an aura there.
Yeah, no question. So, Bennett's done a nice job as well. I mean, Jamal, we're really excited about what he's doing at the nickel position, and continuing to grow as he gets more and more experience. And obviously, Bennett helps us with the depth there. And we're really excited about what Bennett's doing there. And the more and more Bennett plays that position as well, that's going to give us two really, really good guys there. Obviously, Happel has the flexibility to play two positions to the field side there.
Andy, since you faced Costello last year and their running back changes as well, what were some of the more applicable games to watch with Mills at quarterback and analyzing these running backs who you guys just didn't see very much of? And they claim to be 5 deep at running back, but you really only faced Scarlett and one guy for like 3 carries.
Yeah, no question. That's obviously a good question. It's a different quarterback this year. The personnel is going to be a little bit different for them. They've obviously lost their tight end that was a huge target for them for a few years there. And so being able to, watch those games when, obviously when their current personnel towards the end of the year that was in there, and seeing how Mills played, and, he's a tremendous quarterback that has a great arm, makes the deep throws at intermediate, and he can run. And so, that's something that's a little bit different than last year for us, is that, he will get out of the pocket and move when he has to, and he can do it well.
Andy, Mario yesterday was pretty high on, or maybe it was Saturday, on Keon and Christian, the camps those two had. Sounds like that's really added some depth there. It seems like the future is really bright in the interior. Kind of, what are your impressions of them and kind of what stood out to you?
Yeah, those guys have had tremendous camps. Obviously, with the situation in spring ball and, getting cut short there, those guys, didn't get that opportunity to continue developing, but they trained hard through the course of the things that we went through, and a very noticeable difference in their play and how they operate, the twitch they have, the way they're playing blocks, the way they're coming off blocks. And so we're really excited about, that crew and the guys that came in last year, those freshmen.
Andy, at the beginning of camp, you said the goal was to try and find about 25 guys from a depth perspective. I'm curious now, through football camp, how close are you to that, and what's your confidence level in the depth you have?
Yeah, we have. We're there. We got to continue growing in some spots, but we definitely feel good about where we're at going into this week in our preparation and the guys we have. And obviously, again, we got to face a lot of personnel groups. So we got to have personnel groups that match, and we're confident with the guys within those groups. The 2 deeps we have going into the game, and obviously being able to grow forward. It doesn't stop here. We got to keep growing every practice, every week.
Andy, Mario was saying the other day that one of the challenges of playing Stanford is they shorten the game and keep Oregon from having, a limited number of plays. Their offensive line, similar, they had a key opt-out. They've recruited well there. What are you kind of expecting from Stanford's offensive lines, which traditionally are pretty good, but kind of struggled last year?
They're going to grow. They're going to be really physical this year. We believe they're going to be a physical presence up front. Traditionally they have, and that's what we expect. And so we're going to have to play tremendously well up front. We're going to have to really hone in on our techniques and, make sure that we're doing everything we can to win our one-on-ones up front. And then obviously, they're very capable. They're athletic. That's, they're a good screen team. They do well in protections. And I would bet the money that they've developed over the course of the offseason, and it's going to be a really good O-line.
Yeah, Andy, with so many new faces looking to make an impact for the defense right away, how are you planning to put some of these younger guys like Sewell, Dante Manning, or Justin Flo in positions to succeed early against Stanford and in the future, I guess?
Well, right now we're worried about Stanford, and preparing for this game. And obviously they each have their packages and things that, they're doing well right now where they can hop in there and get their taste of college football and help this defense and help this team win, as well as special teams. And so those guys are prominent players on special teams and obviously being within the 2 deep on defense as well. So we're really excited. This will be their first live action underneath the lights. And so they've prepared really hard for this, and we'll be excited to watch them play.
Andy, just a contingency question for you. We'd asked Mario about in the unlikely event somebody were to be out on a Saturday due to a test. He said there's plans for the coaches. I understand, obviously, Joe's been a head coach before. Bobby's been a head coach before. They're going to be on the sidelines. But you're up in the box, and Keith was there with you last year. Nobody else has called the defense before. Can you share what the contingency is in the highly unlikely and let's all hope event that never happens, and you're unable to be there for some reason?
Yeah, I mean, you prepare for everything. We train for all different scenarios. Obviously, given this situation this year, that has become a scenario we got to train for. And even before this, guys on the defense take turn calling it, whether it be at practice and play at periods or, in scrimmages, guys getting to do those things. So I can't share exactly the contingency plan, but we have prepared for it, and guys have done that. I mean, it's something that we typically do regardless of the situation of 2020 with the COVID and things like that. That's just something we always do. So coaches are engaged, they get their opportunity to do it as well, and everyone's continuing to grow forward.
Andy Avalos, Oregon defensive coordinator, meeting with the media. I love this from Rob on the YouTube comments. Scouting report from the D coordinator as QBs. Perfect answer, Coach. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to hear the answer, but I'm right there with you. I mean, I like Coach Avalos handled that well. Like, hey, I don't want to be given a scouting report on these two different quarterbacks. Yeah, that's good stuff. Also, Tammy says, howdy from Texas. How about them Dodgers? I'm not answering that question. Up next, we're going to hear from Joe Moorhead, Oregon offensive coordinator. He talked to the media. That's next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield IMG College.
Okay, man, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. Cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Show the world that you're tougher than tough. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Is that a faucet running? That's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest. Forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink.
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
I didn't know the trees were so amazing.
Yep, and the forest gives us shade, trees to climb.
That's awesome. Let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack with you inside the Country Financial Studio. All of our assistant coach interviews this year brought to you by WVCI. Fight like a duck with cancer care you can count on. And we've got Joe Moorhead, the Oregon offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. Who's going to start at quarterback? I'm sure he got asked that question, as the Ducks have put an or next to Tyler Shuck and Anthony Brown's names. Joe Moorhead meeting with the media today.
Joe, was a different scheme and an offense last year, but these guys were more disruptive against Oregon than anybody on a per-play basis, with 7 tackles for loss on just 54 offensive plays. What have you seen in looking back at that, and other than not having to block Tuhill, who's no longer there, what makes you more confident that you'll be able to avoid those negative plays that can be drive killers when plays are at such a premium against this team?
Yeah, 52 was a terror last year off the edge. He had an excellent game and played very well. And those are things that we've addressed and kind of talked about. That you got to stay ahead of the sticks, and get out of or stay out of third and long situations. As you mentioned, the 54 plays. Stanford's a ball control style offense, so you're going to get limited opportunities. But yeah, certainly at the point of attack, at the line of scrimmage, we got to do a great job. They're big and physical up front. A couple 300-pounders. Play the run very well, do a great job with their hands. Want to keep the ball inside the core. So, we got to do everything we can to stay out of those third and long situations.
Joe, when you have a new quarterback and an entirely new offensive line, and that obviously you're new as well, so that probably helps. But how concerned are you with just the continuity of a game one and trying to avoid, procedure calls and things like that with a new group?
Yeah, we want to do everything that we can from a preparation standpoint, to minimize those, pre-snap, penalties or anything throughout the course of a drive that can knock you back. So that's been a point of emphasis throughout camp, and certainly now into Stanford, game week preparation. That we got to play well as a unit. We got to be very cohesive. You have to be great at communication, and don't do anything that's going to be, affect us, adversely just before the ball is even snapped.
No, you're not going to tip your hand to who's going to start at quarterback, but can I ask you to just evaluate the fall camp both Tyler and Anthony had, and kind of what strengths and weaknesses stood out from this camp from both?
No, I think those guys have both done a nice job kind of digesting the offense and the meeting room, and then taking that information to the field and applying it. And, for not just those guys, but the entire, position group, we want to maximize explosive plays while minimizing, turnovers. And we want to be able to, throw the ball and run the ball with equal effectiveness. You have to be able to push the ball down the field, but at the same time, we want to be aggressive but not reckless with our decision making. And then we got to be able to affect the game with our feet, whether it's by design or improvisation. Whether it's a called run where the quarterback reads it and runs, or it's something where a play breaks down. And these guys all have good feet, and so that's kind of where we've been throughout camp with the position.
In the past, you've talked about the flexibility of your offense and how if you have a year where it's you can go pass heavy one year, throw 5,000 yards at 4 1, or you can adapt it to a more run heavy offense. Just through 4 weeks of camp and coming into week one, do you have a feel for where the strength of this offense is going to be?
Yeah, I think we'll be able to be balanced, and that's very exciting. Obviously, it starts up front, with the offensive line, and we go as they go. Otherwise, it's 7-on-7 or flag football. But an unbelievable stable of running backs with great depth. Very versatile. Receivers. A lot of guys who have played winning football at the receiver position, and a bunch of talented guys at the quarterback spot. So I think when you have to lean too heavily on one side or the other, out of necessity, I don't think you're necessarily as versatile as you would like to be. But I think we're an offense right now that we're going to be able to, hopefully run it and throw it with equal effectiveness.
Coach, I was wondering, with the two quarterbacks you're looking at, are the packages the same for both of them, regardless of who's in, or do you have slightly different variations on your play calling depending on which quarterback might be in?
No, we feel both of those guys. There wouldn't be a situation where one goes in and we've got to alter what we're doing. I think both of them, obviously Anthony's got a lot of experience and has played and won games at this level. So, that's the one thing where he's done a little bit more. Tyler's, served some time as an understudy, but they're both very, very smart players. They're guys that think football at a very high level. And like I said, both guys who can throw it and run it with equal effectiveness. So there wouldn't be a change based on who's in the game.
Yeah, Joe, there's a lot of excitement, I think, from outside the program about this offense. Your players have said the same thing. For you, what excites you about this team this year on offense?
I think the biggest thing that excites me about the offense and the team overall, as I mentioned before, is the culture, the kids' willingness and their energy and their enthusiasm when you take the practice field, their attention to detail, how hard they play and how cohesive they are as a unit. But I think, going back to a previous question, the thing that excites me most outside the talent and the culture is the balance and our ability to, run it and throw it with equal effectiveness. And I think when you're able to do that, you're able to keep the defense a little bit off balance and, make you ultimately more productive.
Two questions. First, I don't want to read into this too much, but Coach Master, I think I said last week, said 2.5 running backs. You had 4 listed on the organizational chart. Can't remember the last time. It was primarily 3 last year. And second, the decision to not be in the booth and on the field, is that something you did at Penn State? Because last year, the offensive coordinator was in the booth.
You want to just make sure you're doing what you can to maximize the talent at the position. And, it may go deeper than 4. And I think Coach Master does a great job with the room, understanding what the strengths and weaknesses of each guy are, and putting them in a position during the game and practice to be successful. So I think that's a luxury, when you have that many guys that are capable, and certainly headlined by CJ, who's very, very exciting and explosive. But there's a bunch of guys at that position who bring unique skill sets, and I think Coach does a great job of kind of identifying what they are and tailoring them to the situation.
The decision to be on the field and not on the booth.
Oh, yeah. I throughout the early part of my career, I had called it from the booth, and I have experience doing that. When I went to Fordham as the head coach and the play caller, I didn't have a choice, so I had to call it from the field, and actually was pleasantly surprised with what you can see down there and how you can get it called if you have someone up in the booth that you trust to communicate information to you. And I also think there's a certain part of the motivational aspect of it, of being to look the entire unit of the offense and the quarterback in the eye and communicate to them. So, that went into our decision. One, that I've done it, have had a fair amount of success doing it, and that we trust the guys who are going up in the booth to provide very detailed and accurate information.
Coach Cristobal said yesterday that he had 9 championship level offensive linemen. In the past, the Ducks have usually displayed the reserves and mop-up time. Do you think this year, because of that depth, that there might be more rotation in the offensive line?
I think it's a possibility. And anytime you're replacing 5 starters, and the guys who are going in have had varying levels of participation relative to this level, you're trying to find the right mix. So I think that's the biggest thing right now, that between Coach Cristobal and Coach Meerball, those guys are coached at a very, very high level. We do a great job at practice, mixing and matching, either positions, cross-training guys, or having entire units go in there. So I think, there are a significant number of guys that could go in there and play at a winning level. Now it's just a matter of finding what that, what that best best 5 looks like.
Joe, I preface this only slightly by saying I loathe player comps. I think it's really unfair to players to do, but you coach Saquon and he put up the 1,000 yards and over 300, over 400 yards receiving. CJ did that as well. And we really haven't asked you very much about him, which is probably more commentary on us. Do you see any comparison at all between the elite player you had at Penn State and what CJ is capable of? Because Jim has raved about him. Obviously, you've spoken highly of him. Do you see any comparisons there?
No, he's incredibly explosive. Saquon was kind of a unique guy, as everybody knows, just from a skill set perspective. But I think CJ kind of reminds me of a combination. He has some Colin Hill in him, and he also has some Chase Edmonds in him, if that makes sense. That he's a very sturdily built guy, and when you watch Colin run between the tackles with CJ, they bounce off of people, and they don't get brought down to the ground very easily. Very low center of gravity, very powerfully built, and are able to run through half a man or run through arm tackles. And you go back to kind of the things that Chase did, that he was very shifty, very elusive, can make people miss in space. So I see of the backs, Colin will be a draft pick, Saquon, Chase, Jordan Todman before him at UConn. We've had a lot of backs that have gone on to the next level and been very successful. And, CJ certainly is going to do that as well.
As a mentor and a coach and even a dad, how important is it to you today to talk to your student athletes about voting, about that process, about being part of that process?
Yeah, I think I haven't had to say a word about it. Coach Cristobal has done a phenomenal job addressing the team over and over and over again about the importance of this day, as it pertains to the young men individually and the overall kind of fabric of the state and the country. So that hasn't been something I've had to address with the guys, because Coach has done an unbelievable job with it.
Yeah, Joe, with so many notable receiving options this season, I just want to focus on Micah Pittman going into the season. How have you seen him grow throughout camp, and what will that translate into his role on the field?
Yeah, Mike is a guy that loves the sport of football. You see that he plays with an incredible amount of passion and excitement, and I think that's one of the best things about him is he doesn't love just game day. He loves the practice, and he's a guy that's got a lot of versatility. He's worked at the outside receiver position and in the slot. Great fundamentals and technique, good short distance quickness, excellent hands. So Mike is a guy you enjoy coaching because he enjoys not just to play, he enjoys to practice as well.
Just with Stanford, when you put him on film, what pops out? What jumps out when you're watching that defense?
I'd say size and physicality of the front seven. I'd say length on the back end. Very well coached, play with incredible effort, and a team that really tries to minimize explosive plays. And you kind of look at the whole season. There were some games where, I think the 4 games in our breakdown, Stanford was the only one that scored over 24 points. I think everyone else was 24 or less. So Coach Thompson does a good job with that unit. You could see the kids, believe in their scheme and play with a lot of confidence and a lot of physicality. So I think those are the challenges that are presented to us this week.
Coach, it sounds like true freshman wide receiver Chris Hudson has put himself in position to help you out this season. Talk about what you've seen from him on the field and what his skill set's like.
Yeah, Coach McClellan has done a great job. Anytime you could get a true freshman, ready to go in this short amount of time who hasn't been exposed to the offense, I think that's a credit to coach and what he's doing in the meeting room. Chris is very, very fast. He's got excellent straight line speed. He could get behind people. He could blow the top off the coverage. He kind of reminds me of Micah a little bit in the sense that he's a guy that enjoys, playing the game of football, whether it be practice or a game. Had a huge, long touchdown catch in our last, team related, I don't call it scrimmage, but practice. But yeah, he's a guy with a ton of upside, and you just got to keep bringing him along.
Joe, you've spoken about the depth of running back. Jim is leaving the possibility open to just employing a few different things, maybe even a little bit of a fullback look. I know you're base 11 and base 12 for the most part. They ran a little bit of 20-21 last year, but especially against these guys, do you see the possibility for more 20, 21, 22 personnel at times?
Heck, when I was at different places, we've done different things. When I was at UConn, we were 50% 11, and then the rest was 21, 12, and 22. And, not to obviously tip our hand or talk about what we're going to do in the game, but I will say this, we do have the flexibility to, be one back, be two back. I don't know necessarily about true fullback, but, with that tight end, if you align him off the ball, kind of in that wing position, that's kind of, analogous to almost a fullback position, I guess, in some ways. But yeah, I think we have, because of our personnel, the flexibility to line up in one or two back, but that's to be determined based on, particular week and what we want to do.
I think the best way to describe this Oregon offense under Joe Moorhead is multiple. They're going to do a lot of different things. The Oregon offensive coordinator, Joe Moorhead, meeting with the media. One note today from David Shaw. Gabe Reed, starting outside linebacker, looks like he will be out versus the Ducks. So a backup there, and that's what Coach Moorhead was just talking about. Jumping off the film, it's the length and physicality on the outside. Well, it looks like Gabe Reed will be out against the Ducks coming up this Saturday. Up next, we're going to get the view from the other side. Scott Reiss, the voice of the Stanford Cardinal, with us after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
All it takes is one drop to make a wave. One beat to inspire a track. One spark to get creativity flowing. With every drop, Life Water refreshes your mind and restores your body. Purified water, pH balanced with electrolytes for taste. Designed with original works of art on every bottle. Let us be your source of inspiration. Life Water, the feel-good water.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager.
Learning the lingo.
Hundo P. Hundo P. Adjective. Short for being 100% sure or certain. As in, if we get a puppy, I'll Hundo P always walk it.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth. Step out of the car, please. I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. Coming up, we're going to hear from Scott Reiss, the voice of the Stanford Cardinal. They've had some problems, obviously. Hearing today that Gabe Reed looks like he'll be out against the Ducks, and they've had guys like Paulson Adebo on the defense as well. Outstanding cornerback, probably a top 2-round pick in the NFL draft, and Walker Little opting out as well. Some roster turnover for Stanford. But, you know, I was going through and getting ready for this game and thinking about the Ducks along the offensive line, and a couple key things have stuck out for me. So one, I want to read a number to you that I think is going to make you go, wow, that's just outstanding. So the folks in the communications office here at Oregon, that's Patrick Pearson and Todd Miles, Greg Walker. There's so many different names that I can mention. They came up with this, and so we all knew that Oregon was replacing 5 starters along the offensive line. But get this. So among all teams entering the 2020 season, Oregon has the least amount of starts along the offensive line across the entire country. The Ducks have just 1 start returning along the offensive line. Kansas State has 3, and then Michigan and Clemson each have 17. And that's the fewest offensive line starts entering this season. Now, this, of course, comes after Oregon had a combined 223 starts along the offensive line at the end of last season. That was the most in the country. The Ducks went from having the most starts along the offensive line to having the least starts along the offensive line as we head into this season. Pretty incredible to think about just the experience factor that the Ducks are in some ways giving up, but it's just because they had so many talented guys that are moving on. Also, one other thing that I'm going to be thinking about as we are about to talk about Davis Mills and what the wide receiver group looks like for the Cardinal, keep in mind that Oregon is the only program in the country that has intercepted at least 15 passes in each of the last 3 seasons. Ducks have been ball hawks defensively. The secondary has been very good. And with some opt-outs like Javon Holland, like Brady Breeze, like Thomas Graham, it's going to be a lot of new names in the secondary that are hoping to keep that running and make it a 4th straight year, even in a shortened season with 15 picks. We'll see if the Ducks can do it. Just a couple notes to think about before we get the view from the other side. Tyler asking, when are the new unis for Saturday being announced? Normally later in the week. I actually don't know for sure. I might find out this afternoon. We have a meeting this afternoon. I'll ask. But I'm assuming probably later in the week. Also, on a more lighthearted note, Max has asked on the YouTube comments, what's your 40 time? I'm going to go ahead and say infinity. And then Max also said, hey, Joey, what's your bench? Can I say 0? I could say that, couldn't I? I'll say this. Not near as good as it should be if I wanted to play football with these guys at Oregon. Coach Feld would be very unhappy with my progress during the COVID times. But I appreciate it, Max, and thanks for having some fun with us. Up next, the voice of the Stanford Cardinal, Scott Reiss. That's after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
This is the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a cool day.
Football
I want to be a
stadium.
bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Whoa.
The moment my son saw a redwood tree
It's huge!
is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing.
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union inside the Country Financial Studio. I did see John asking, by the way, John, the head of the North chapter of Duck Insider. More on that later. He said that John Wilner from the Mercury News, friend of the program, picked number 3 in the North for the Ducks behind Cal and Stanford. You know, my thought, and I did see that that Steven said Stanford had like 15 people in the transfer portal. We're going to talk about that with Scott Reiss, but also Stanford had a ton of injuries last year, both on the offense and the defensive sides of the ball. So I think the Cardinal are going to be better off this year than they were last year, even with some of these opt-outs. More on that, though, coming up. Our conversation, we sat down just a little while ago with the voice of the Stanford Cardinal, Scott Reiss. Pleasure to now talk a little bit of Stanford Cardinal. It's kind of odd to say that a season opener is against the Stanford Cardinal for the Ducks. Not that odd for it to be the Pac-12 opener, though it is odd for the Cardinal to open with somebody other than USC, it seems like, in the Pac-12 schedule lately. So to talk about all that, Scott Reiss, the voice of the Stanford Cardinal, is joining us. Scott, where are you today? Are you coming to us live from your home office?
We are hanging out. Home office might be a stretch. It is the home. It's the home dining room.
It's great.
The home office is in a little more congested area of the house, so we've sort of sequestered here.
I like that. Well, I have to tell you, the home dining room, I've done plenty of Zoom interviews there. I actually have a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge up in our dining room. So, we're from the same neck of the woods, so I'm with you. So I hope I get to see the Golden Gate Bridge sooner than later at this point. And hopefully, Scott, we'll be able to have you at Autzen Stadium again before like 2030 at this rate.
Yeah, I miss the Valley River Inn. It's an annual. It's a rite of passage. Are you kidding me? You circle it on the calendar.
That is so funny that you say that. I'm glad that that view is not lost on everybody. That's hilarious over at the Valley River. All right, you can follow Scott on Twitter at Stanford Voice. I want to talk with you, Scott, just a little bit about what the heck has gone on down at Stanford. I mean, you guys, much like us, 3 different schedules, working with public health officials. It's really been just a lot to handle. I mean, where are the Cardinal at, and how are things going down in your neck of the woods as you guys prepare for a season?
Yeah, it's funny. I think you used the word odd about 7 times in your opening sentence, and I don't know that we'll be able to get away from that for pretty much the entirety of this season. Everything is odd. The buildup has been odd, the multiple schedules, the shutdown, the comeback. And, where Stanford is concerned, you have the added nuance of the school being located in Santa Clara County, which is, by all estimations, the strictest county, not just in California, but probably in the entire nation when it comes to COVID and reopening and that sort of thing. You've got a public health officer there who is ultra conservative when it comes to this stuff. Now, she's a Stanford alum, so you think she might be motivated to open some doors. That hasn't been the case at all. So it's been a very slow progression. In fact, the first 5 days of practice, they had to go 2.5 miles north to a high school because it was across the border in San Mateo County so that they could actually practice, because apparently it's much safer 2 miles from campus than it is on campus to go ahead and practice. So, it's been a slow and sometimes painful road to get where we are, but the protocols are in place now, as they are everywhere. And you just cross your fingers that it all works out, but it's definitely been strange.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that we all hope, as long as we can do this safely, it'd be nice to get back to some semblance of normalcy. But we do have to make sure that we're doing it safely. I can tell you that the protocols are still being finalized at Autzen Stadium. Lane County, very similar, has been very on guard with this, and I think rightfully so. So let's hope that we can grab those masks, as they say, and make sure that we're all doing the right thing. Scott Reiss, our guest. Hey, let's talk actually about what's going on a football field, which is nice to be able to do that on this show again. Some roster turnover for the Cardinal with some opt-outs, some transfers. I'm just kind of curious, names for fans to know as we get ready to face the Cardinal with some of the bigger names heading on to other pastures, I suppose.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody can complain about opt-outs when Oregon has dealt with what it has dealt with in terms of the breadth of talent that has decided not to play this season. But Stanford, in addition to losing a fair number of guys who went graduate transfer route even before COVID, decided to go finish and play their 5th years elsewhere and get a graduate degree. They had 2 marquee guys who decided to opt out with the late start. And one is Walker Little, who's a potential first-round draft pick at left tackle. And the other is Paulson Adebo, who is a potential first-round, if not second-round pick at cornerback. So you lose 2 of your best players going in, 1 on each side of the ball. And obviously you're going to need some new names and some new guys to kind of come up and shine. I guess for Stanford, the big names, fortunately for those, paying attention from maybe the other side, it's going to be less of a task to try and figure Stanford out offensively, because it's a lot of the same dudes. You're talking about Davis Mills, who was tremendous last year when he replaced KJ Costello midseason. You've got a wide receiver core that is really off the charts good. It may be the best group top to bottom that we've ever had at Stanford, and that's obviously saying something given what we've seen in the last 10 or 12 years. But Semi Fehoko is an absolute star, and he will play on Sundays. Michael Wilson is a really good Pac-12 receiver who just gets better and better. And Connor Weddington is the steady Eddie 5th-year guy who is a kick returner and a receiver and just does everything for this team. So that's just your starters, and they've got depth there as well. So I think that, when you talk about Stanford's offensive preferences, we've seen a little bit of a shift, right? A little bit of a shift. They want to ground and pound, and traditionally it was, we're just going to run it down your throat. They've shifted, I think, a little bit because of personnel, and I think you're going to see Davis air it out a little bit more this year than maybe some fans are accustomed to.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike Jorgensen, our analyst on the Oregon Sports Network, Scott, he's been doing this 31 years, and he said that this is one of the better wide receiver groups that he's seen. He really likes what the Cardinal bring to the table. Tell us a little bit more about Davis Mills. I mean, he started 6 games last year. He sure seems like, man, he's got all the tools to be successful.
He does, and he's a kid that you have heard comparisons, and you hate to put this on anyone, but you're talking about hallowed ground. You've heard the Andrew Luck comparison bandied about at times during his career in terms of the potential, right? Obviously, we're not there yet. And the thing with Luck is, in addition to all the physical tools, he legitimately had a computer chip for a brain, and that enabled him to succeed at a level that few others ever have at the college level, certainly with the complexity of the Stanford playbook. But Mills, in terms of the physical attributes, he's right there. And his mastery of the offense, I think, has expanded by leaps and bounds, as you would expect now with a little bit of playing time under his belt. But the thing with Davis is the backstory is really great, too. And a lot of people probably don't know. I mean, he was a blue chip guy. In fact, the number 1 or 2 quarterback coming out of high school his senior year. He tore his ACL senior year, so he had to sit out as a true freshman. Then he tore his ACL again when he got to Stanford that freshman year when he was practicing again. And then he tore his meniscus and had a 3rd surgery on the same knee. So you're talking about 3 major knee surgeries that Davis Mills had in about 3 years or so, 2.5, 3 years. And yet here he is. He's managed to come back and play at an elite level. So if he stays healthy, and you always worry about, chronic knee injuries, but if he stays healthy, sky's the limit, no question.
Scott Reiss joining us, voice of the Stanford Cardinal. He'll have the call coming up on the Stanford side this weekend, though we were talking before we hit record here that it's going to be odd not being at Autzen Stadium, so we're going to do our best to make sure that everything ends up coming to you guys as it should, because everybody should be aware. I've talked about it a couple times on the show now. no Pac-12 crews are traveling for broadcasts, so things are going to look a little bit different. Hey, you mentioned, Scott, the running game. I'm curious. I mean, 11th in the conference last year in rushing. I mean, you said like a shift for personnel. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I wasn't like, boy, Stanford's got a really good run game. What is the situation in the run game? And I know Hoping probably expect to be a little bit better than 11th in the conference, right?
I would expect that it will be. You know, you need context when you talk about last year, and I know you remember, but maybe some of the fans didn't know or didn't care. But Stanford's offensive line injuries were just silly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was to a point where there were a couple of games about 2/3 of the way through the season where they literally had 6 healthy, dressed offensive linemen available for a game. 6, right? You play 5, and of those 6, 4 were true freshmen who aren't supposed to be playing, especially on the offensive line. So, you know, it's no wonder that you're 11th in the conference in running when you're dealing with that.
Right.
Walker Little leaves, so there's a hole at left tackle, but they had so many guys forced into action last year that, you know, as the saying goes, now it makes you stronger down the road. A lot of dudes with experience. The offensive line, even without Walker, should be anywhere from good to really good this season. And you've got 2 running backs who got their feet wet last year as freshmen. One is Austin Jones, who's a local kid who certainly looks to have all the makings of a legitimate Pac-12 feature back. And then there's Nathaniel Pete, who we didn't see a lot of last year. He's more of a gadget guy because he's smaller. And when I say small, I mean short. I don't mean thin of build, because he's put on muscle, and he looks like a 5'8" Mack truck at this point, if there's such a thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use both of those guys. And maybe the wild card here is a kid whose last name is Smith and his first initial is E.
Yeah.
And he happens to be the son of another guy with those credentials, right? Emmett Smith's kid, EJ, is now a freshman, highly touted recruit, and we'll see if they let him get some run this year too.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you. I mean, you get a name like that comes on campus. I think a lot of people must just be excited around the Cardinal program, just as, not even with a lot of pressure on him to play right away, but just to see what he can do in his career, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And we've been through this before because we had Barry J. Sanders a few years ago. So we're trying to corner the market on Hall of Fame NFL, the heirs of Hall of Fame NFL running backs. And we'll see how that works.
Not a bad recruiting strategy, I'll tell you what.
No, it's okay.
You know, not a bad approach. What's the defense looking like this year, Scott? What's the scouting report on the Cardinal D?
And that's the big question. The short answer is we don't know. I can tell you that, and I've only been down there once for practice so far. I'll see him again this week. And all I know is what I see on the roster, but you look at the weights, and a couple of these guys, and by a couple, I mean 5 or 6 or 7 of these guys on the first and second string defense have ballooned and put on 20, 25, some 30 pounds. They are much bigger than they were a year ago. You hope and you assume, and I do, knowing this coaching staff, that it's good weights, not just sitting home eating pizzas during COVID.
Yeah.
And so I think that the defensive line could be a lot better than the last couple of years, and Stanford needs that. They've got to get more pressure on the quarterback. Thomas Booker is the big name. He's going to be an NFL guy. He's put on about 20, 25 pounds, and he looks tremendous. So another guy who has all Pac-12 potential if he can stay healthy. Linebacker, bit of a question mark. They've got a kid named Curtis Robinson, who's a fifth-year guy, sort of the stalwart in the middle, who's been around the program for 4 years. But, a lot of guys coming in both inside and outside who they're going to rely on, who we did not see much of or at all a year ago. And in the secondary, I mentioned Paulson Adebo, who is the headliner, right? And best cornerback maybe in the conference. He leaves, and so that's a big hole to fill. So a lot of questions. And they've got athletes, they've got depth, and God willing, they'll be healthier than last year, because it wasn't just the O-line. I mean, the entire roster was absolutely crushed last year. Never seen anything like it by injury, and a lot of that was on the defensive side. So hopefully we'll get to see what some of these guys are like when they're actually upright and on the field.
Well, and I was going to tell you, I mean, just here's to a healthy year, and that maybe means more this year than ever before, with the potential for attrition with a virus. So definitely, here's to a healthy year down on the farm. Well, Scott, I got to tell you, you're on a TV screen in our studio. I mean, it's weird that you're not sitting in our nice chair. I joke all the time, like we spent a bunch of money to make the guests comfortable and put them in a chair like late night style. Now we don't even use it. So hopefully that we'll see you here sooner than later. And hey, have a great call this weekend, Scott. Really appreciate you taking the time, and looking forward to catching up with you hopefully in basketball season. I can hope for that, right?
Yeah, which now is only like 3 weeks away. So we're getting close there too. Hey, here's to a healthy season all around. Really looking forward to Saturday and getting this thing going.
Good conversation with Scott Reiss, the voice of the Stanford Cardinal. The scouting report from the other side. Up next, we'll wrap things up. A little bit of a note on O Heroes here on Election Day on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt US Kids, and the Ad Council.
We're back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack with you inside the Country Financial Studio. Earlier today, O Heroes, as part of a live stream to benefit Rock the Vote. If you aren't familiar, Rock the Vote is just essentially about what it sounds like. Get out and vote. A nonpartisan group that really supports getting out and voting. I think we can all agree here on Election Day. And Oh Heroes, a great job by Matt and Carly. I've been working with them on hosting that live stream, and I thought they just did a tremendous job. And the theme of Oh Heroes is really to be involved in the community around the University of Oregon, and they just did a great job. Encourage you to go back on the Oh Heroes Facebook, and you can watch it if you're interested. Good stuff today. It's game week. Tomorrow, interviews with student athletes from Oregon football. Mario Cristobal will talk to the media. And, well, that's probably going to end up being the entire show. We didn't get to Holly Anderson today. We'll do that again tomorrow. We'll see you then.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.